The great chamber of the Galactic Council glittered with alien banners, each one a symbol of power. Leaders from 100 worlds sat in high seats, their voices echoing like thunder. They had gathered to discuss Earth, the small blue world that had dared to claim a seat among them at the center of the hall. The human envoy stood tall. His name was Captain Elias Vorn. His uniform was simple, his face calm. But the weight of 1,000 alien eyes pressed down on him. Around him, the aliens laughed. Humans, sneered a scaled commander from the Drac Dominion. You are fragile. You are prey. Even your bones break like glass. A tall, feathered diplomat shook her wings in amusement. I have seen humans run from storms on their own planet. How can such creatures stand against the storms of war? The hall filled with cruel laughter. The sound rolled like a storm tide, drowning the silence. Every alien in that chamber believed the same thing. Humans were weak. Elias did not move. He simply looked at them, his eyes steady, his jaw locked. There was no anger, no fear, only patience. Finally, the supreme moderator of the council raised his hand, silencing the chamber. His voice was deep and sharp, carrying across the vast space. Earth claims it can defend itself, the moderator said. Yet it sends so few soldiers. Where is your army, Captain? Where are your fleets? Where is your proof? Every alien leaned forward. They wanted to see the humans stumble. They wanted to laugh again. Elias spoke at last. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried strength. Humanity does not measure strength by numbers, he said. We measure it by what we bring into the fight. The chamber hissed with amusement. Words spat the Drac commander. We ask for warriors. Do not give us riddles. Very well, Elias said. You will see them soon. 2 days later, the alien armies gathered on the desert world of Karthos. The sky was blood red, the ground cracked and dry. Across the horizon, armored vehicles rolled, carrying weapons that could shatter mountains. Armies of insectoid soldiers marched in lines, their armor gleaming. In the skies above, alien gunships circled like vultures. The Council had chosen this world as a test. Earth had been ordered to show its strength here. And so the alien hosts waited, confident, laughing, ready to crush whatever the humans sent. Then the humans arrived. It was not an army. It was not even 1,000 soldiers. It was only a few dropships descending slowly through the red sky. The alien generals laughed at the sight. Is this all they bring? One scoffed. A handful of men. The dropships landed. The hatches opened. Human soldiers stepped out, their faces hidden by helmets, their weapons held steady. But behind them came something else. Shadows, shapes, beasts. They moved on 4 legs. It's massive and heavy, with muscles like steel cables. Their eyes glowed with a strange, burning light. Their jaws were filled with teeth that looked too sharp to be natural. Each one wore armored plating, strapped across its back and chest. They moved with a terrifying silence, only the crunch of sand under their claws breaking the air. The laughter of the aliens faltered. What are those? Whispered a Zell warrior. They are not machines, muttered another. They breathe. They watch us. The war dogs stood behind the humans, waiting, their bodies tense like drawn arrows. The bond between soldier and beast was clear. When the soldiers raised their hands, the war dogs moved. When the soldiers stopped, the beasts froze like statues. The alien commanders scoffed again, trying to recover their pride. Pets, shouted the Drac general. They bring pets to the battlefield. Laughter tried to rise again, but it was weaker this time. The aliens could feel the eyes of the war dogs watching them, unblinking, full of hunger. Elias stepped forward. He raised one hand, and the war dogs growled in unison, a low, rolling sound that shook the air. It was not the sound of animals. It was the sound of something bred for war. The Drac commander's voice cracked, but he forced the words out. If this is your strength, then you will fall quickly. Elias turned his gaze to him, calm as ever. If you believe that, he said softly, then you have already lost. The silence that followed was heavy. No one laughed now. The aliens shifted uneasily in their armor. The soldiers of Earth stood tall, their beasts crouched and waiting. The desert wind howled between them, carrying dust and tension, and in that moment, one thought echoed through the minds of every alien commander. If this is only the beginning, what else are the humans hiding? The desert of Karthos was silent before dawn. Red light spilled across the cracked ground as alien armies gathered in lines that stretched for miles. Thousands of insectoid soldiers clicked their mandibles, armored scales shining in the rising sun. Tanks rolled into place, their cannons pointed toward the horizon. Gunships circled in the dusty air like dark birds waiting for prey. The commanders laughed. The humans have brought a handful of soldiers and their animals. This will be quick. But when the sun climbed higher, the laughter began to fade. The humans stood in a tight formation. Only a few dozen of them, their armor black against the burning sand. At their sides crouched the war dog's massive beasts with glowing eyes and armored hides. Their claws dug into the ground as they growled low, ready to spring. For a long moment, nothing moved. The wind whistled across the battlefield, carrying the taste of dust and metal. Then a horn blast echoed from the alien lines. The first wave began to march. Hundreds of insectoid soldiers surged forward, weapons raised, their shrieks filling the sky. They expected the humans to break. They expected fear. But the human soldiers did not move. They stood still, calm, waiting, at the center. Captain Elias Vorn raised one hand. Now, he said. The war dogs leaped. They crossed the sand in seconds, moving faster than the eye could follow. Their claws ripped into armored soldiers, tearing through shields as if they were paper. The aliens screamed as the beasts struck, jaws crushing weapons and limbs alike. One alien tank swiveled its cannon and fired. The blast threw sand into the air, but when the dust cleared, the war dog kept running its armor, blackened but unbroken. With a roar, it launched itself onto the tank, tearing into the hatch. The alien crew inside screamed as metal shrieked under the beast's claws. The alien generals stared in. Shock. These are not animals, whispered one. They are weapons. The human soldiers advanced now, slow and steady, their rifles cutting down survivors. But it was the war dogs that carried the battle. They moved in perfect harmony with their handlers, every strike, every leap in time with human commands. One soldier raised his hand, and his war dog spun around him, cutting down 3 attackers with a single sweep. Another soldier gave a sharp whistle, and his beast hurled itself into the air, slamming an alien gunship as it swooped too low. The ship spiraled down in flames, crashing into the sand. The battlefield turned into chaos. Alien formations broke apart. The laughter of the council chambers was gone, now replaced by fear. The insectoid soldiers shrieked in panic as they were torn apart. The tanks tried to retreat, but the war dogs hunted them down, leaping onto metal hulls, ripping apart cannons with impossible strength. In the middle of the storm, Elias walked calmly, his rifle firing with precise shots. His war dog, larger than the rest, never strayed more than a few steps away, its massive form blocking enemy fire, its glowing eyes scanning for threats. The alien commanders shouted desperate orders. Surround them, burn them, do not let the beasts through. But it was too late. The war dogs howled together, a deep bone-shaking sound that rolled across the desert like thunder. The sound carried terror into the hearts of every alien on the field. Many dropped their weapons and fled, throwing down their armor as they ran. One alien general refused to retreat. His hover tank roared forward, its cannons glowing bright with energy. He shouted across the battlefield, "You think your monsters can stop us? Watch them burn." He fired again and again, blasting holes into the sand, each strike shaking the ground. Elias looked at him and gave a single command. Go. His war dog launched forward, sprinting across the desert. The beast dodged blasts, sand exploding around it, but it never slowed. With a final leap, it landed on the hover tank, claws screeching against metal. The alien general screamed as the war dog tore open the hatch and dragged him out. Into the red sky, silence fell. The remaining alien soldiers froze, their courage broken. All around them, the battlefield lay in ruins, burning ships, Shattered tanks, bodies scattered across the sand. And standing in the middle were the humans and their beasts, breathing hard but unbroken. The message was clear. The aliens had mocked Earth. They had called humans weak. But here, on the desert of Karthos, they learned the truth. The humans were not weak, and their war dogs were nightmares made flesh. The news of Karthos spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Entire fleets had seen the desert battle through council channels. Armies of insectoid soldiers crushed by only a few humans and their beasts. Tanks torn apart. Gunships dragged from the sky. The laughter that once filled the council chambers was gone now. In its place came silence, heavy and uneasy. "They cannot be simple animals," hissed a reptilian envoy. "No creature moves like that." "They are machines," argued another, her metallic feathers rattling. "Some kind of advanced war drone." But deep inside, none of them believed that. The truth was stranger, far away. On a hidden base in the icy mountains of Earth, scientists had worked for decades. They studied predators of their own world: wolves, tigers, bears, even ancient fossils of creatures long extinct. They studied how these beasts hunted, how they survived against impossible odds. And then they asked a single question: what if such instincts could be sharpened? What if they could be bound to human command? In secret laboratories, they created the war dogs. Not from one beast, but from many. Claws from predators. Muscles enhanced by human biotech. Neural bonds woven into their very skulls. Each war dog was born not just as a weapon, but as a partner. Dr. Robert Chen, the lead scientist, once said, "They are not our pets. They are not our slaves. They are brothers in arms. When they fight with us. When they bleed for us." That bond cannot be broken, and it was true. Every war dog was linked to a human soldier through a neural scar, a shared signal in their minds. When the soldier's heart raced, the beast's strength grew. When the soldier called, the beast answered. When the soldier died, the beast did not survive long after. It was this bond that made them unstoppable. In the council's private chambers, alien leaders whispered in fear. If humans have bred such creatures, then what else are they hiding? Perhaps the beasts are only the beginning. A recording was played. It showed the war dogs leaping across the desert battlefield, tearing through enemy lines with impossible strength. The alien generals watching the footage felt their stomachs twist. Some turned away. "This is not war," muttered one. "This is horror." Another slammed his claw against the table. "We must act. We must destroy Earth before more of these creatures are unleashed." But no one moved, because even as they spoke, they did not know the full truth. Back on Earth, Captain Elias stood inside a dim hangar. His war dog, Titan, rested beside him, its chest rising and falling in heavy breaths. The beast's armored plates were scratched, but its eyes still burned with that strange, loyal fire. A young soldier approached Elias. His voice shook. "Sir, the council has seen what we've done. They will never forgive us." Elias nodded. "Good. Let them fear us. Let them remember that humanity is not prey." The soldier looked down at Titan, who lifted its massive head and stared back at him. For a moment he felt the weight of that gaze. It was not the look of an animal. It was the look of a thinking warrior. Meanwhile, alien spies intercepted a human transmission. It was short, simple, but it froze the council's blood when they read it. "The war dogs are ready. The Alpha units will be deployed soon." Whispers erupted. "Alpha units. Are there stronger ones?" If what we saw was only the beginning, the fear grew. On Karthos, the ruins of the battlefield still smoked. Alien survivors limped across the sand, whispering of the beasts. They described eyes that glowed like fire, jaws that tore through steel, howls that froze the blood in their veins. One soldier, broken and burned, whispered to his commander, They were not animals. They looked at us as if we were the prey." The commander said nothing. His mandibles clicked nervously as he stared into the desert. Where the bodies of his army lay scattered, Back in the council chamber, the supreme moderator stood at the center once more. His voice was grim, heavy with the weight of what was to come. Make no mistake. Humanity is no longer to be ignored. They have shown us something we cannot understand. If these beasts are only the first, then the galaxy is in danger. No one laughed this time. No one mocked. Instead, silence filled the chamber. Silence and fear. The galaxy had seen many wars. Fleets clashing in the void. Planets burned to ash. Civilizations rising and falling. But never before had the galaxy seen anything like the Battle of Karthos. Word spread faster than light. Every council relay carried the same reports. A handful of humans, backed by strange beasts, had torn through an army 1,000 times their size. Fear took root. On trading stations, merchants whispered in hushed voices. The humans brought monsters. They say the beasts cannot die. On distant colonies, children hid when human ships were mentioned. The war dogs, they whispered, they will come in the night. Entire fleets changed their patrol routes. Armies avoided human borders. Even species that once mocked Earth began to fall silent. The laughter of the council had turned into uneasy quiet. But not all believed the rumors. Some wanted proof. On the storm world of Relin, an alien strike force captured a war dog alive. It took 3 plasma nets, dozens of soldiers, and a gunship to drag the beast into a fortified lab. Even chained, even wounded, it thrashed with terrifying strength, eyes glowing with a cold, red fire. Inside the lab, the alien scientists watched it through thick glass. "It is not natural," said one. "No predator can survive such wounds." Another leaned closer, eyes wide. "Look at its body. Enhanced muscles. Modified lungs. This is engineered." The lead scientist tapped his claws on the table. "If it was made, then it can be unmade. We will learn their secret." The war dog stared back at them through the glass. It did not blink. It did not lower its head. Its eyes followed their every move like a predator waiting for the right moment. Days passed. The aliens starved it, beat it, tried to break it. But still, the beast refused to eat, refused to bow. One night a young assistant whispered, "Why does it not give in?" The lead scientist checked the monitors. His voice was grim. "It is waiting for something." "What?" He pointed to the readings. "The neural link. It is tied to a human. Until that human calls, it will not answer to anyone else." The assistant shivered. "Then it will die here?" The scientist hesitated. Then he noticed something strange. The beast's heartbeat was rising. Its muscles were tense. Its claws scraped against the metal floor. "Something's wrong," he whispered, far away. The war dog's handler was in chains. The aliens had captured him too. Soldier named Lieutenant Hale. They strapped him to a chair. Ow. Wires pressed against his skin, electricity burning through his veins. They wanted him to break, to sever the bond. But the more they tortured him, the more the war dog stirred. Its growl rumbled through the lab, shaking the walls. Monitors screamed alarms. The chains rattled, bent, then snapped. The beast roared. With one strike, shattered the glass, shards exploding across the lab. Scientists screamed as it tore through them, claws slicing armor, jaws crushing bone. No weapon slowed it. No shield held it. The war dog was no longer waiting. It was answering its human's pain. Outside, alarms filled the alien base. Soldiers rushed in, weapons raised, but the war dog moved like a storm, cutting through them in a blur of speed and fury. One survivor, trembling, crawled to the corner of the chamber and whispered, "They said it was an animal. But no animal fights for another like this. This is something else." The last thing he heard was the beast's howl as fire consumed the lab. When the news reached the council, even the bravest fell silent. "If the bond between human and beast is so strong," whispered one elder, "then how can we ever win against them?" The supreme moderator spoke grimly. If humanity can create such soldiers, then no war will ever be the same again. This is not just a weapon. This is loyalty made into flesh. No one argued. No one laughed. Because deep down, they all knew the truth. If one war dog could not be broken, then no army in the galaxy could ever break humanity. The ruins of the alien lab still smoked when the survivors were dragged before their commanders. They stammered in fear, describing what they had seen, the beast breaking free, answering its human screams from across the compound. It moved when he suffered, one whispered. It killed when he bled. The commander's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Are you saying the creature felt his pain? The soldier nodded. His voice broke. It did not fight for freedom. It fought for him. The room fell silent. The truth was worse than anyone had imagined. Far away, in a hidden human base carved into the cliffs of Earth, the bond was being studied. Dr. Robert Chen, the architect of the War Dog program, stood before a group of recruits. His face was stern, but his voice carried pride. The War Dogs are not machines. They are not tools, he told them. They are part of us. Each one is bonded to a soldier through what we call the scar. On the screen behind him, a recording played. A human's heartbeat pulsed on one monitor. On another, the heartbeat of a war dog pulsed in time with it. Every spike matched. Every beat echoed. When the soldier fights, the beast fights. When the soldier suffers, the beast feels it. And when the soldier dies... Dr. Chen paused, his voice heavy. The beast will not live long after. Their loyalty kills them. The recruits shifted uneasily. Some whispered, but none dared to speak loud. Dr. Chen looked at them with hard eyes. This is why they are feared. Because no alien can understand such a bond. They think of armies as numbers. They think of soldiers as tools, but we fight as one. Meanwhile, deep in the council chambers, alien leaders argued. If this bond is real, then it is a weakness, one snarled. Kill the human, and the beast will fall. Another shook his head. No. The beast grows more dangerous when the human is harmed. We saw it with our own eyes. The bond makes them unstoppable. The supreme moderator slammed his claw on the table. Then we must find a way to sever it. Otherwise, the galaxy will drown in their howls. But none of them dared to test the theory again. Too many had already died trying. On the frontier world of Juras, the aliens made another attempt. They captured both soldier and war dog, keeping them in separate cages. For days they tortured the human, cutting, burning, shocking him. Each time, the war dog strained harder against its chains, its muscles tearing, its claws breaking against steel. The scientists thought it would weaken. Instead, it grew more savage, more determined. Finally, during one brutal session, a soldier cried out, his voice echoing through the halls. The war dog answered with a roar that shook the entire compound. Its eyes burned like fire as it ripped free from its cage, chains snapping like paper. The soldiers panicked. Energy blasts filled the air, but the beast did not stop. It crashed through walls, tearing down doors, until it reached its handler. The human was bloodied, barely breathing. The war dog crouched beside him, pressing its armored body against the soldier's chest as if shielding him from the world. And then something happened that froze every alien in the room. The beast lowered its head, and the human barely conscious lifted a trembling hand to touch it. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, man and monster breathed as one. Then the beast turned, unleashing fury. The lab became fire and screams. When the few survivors reported back, their words carried across the council like poison. They do not fight alone, one whispered. They fight as one soul, split into two bodies. The counselors shifted nervously. Some looked at each other with fear. Others with anger. This bond makes them more than soldiers, muttered a feathered elder. It makes them legends. Back on Earth, Elias stood once again with Titan, his war dog. The beast's glowing eyes reflected the stars as the captain stroked its armored head. They fear us now, Elias said quietly. Not because of our weapons, not because of our fleets, They fear us because they cannot understand this. Titan's ears flicked at his voice. The beasts pressed closer, silent but loyal. Elias's words carried into the cold night. We are not weak. We are never alone. And that is something no empire can break. The war dog lifted its head and howled, the sound echoing across the cliffs, a sound of war and loyalty. Somewhere in the galaxy, aliens shivered in their sleep.
Ow.
Dreaming of glowing eyes in the dark, the galaxy thought it had seen the worst at Karthos. They were wrong. The humans had been patient, careful, never showing their full strength. But now the war was spreading. Alien fleets were pushing closer to Earth's borders, and the humans chose to answer in a way no one expected. Not with more ships, not with vast armies, but with fire from the skies. On the rocky world of Drenner, an alien fortress stood tall, guarded by tanks, turrets, and thousands of soldiers. They had prepared for a human attack, lining their walls with cannons, filling the skies with patrol craft. The commanders were confident. They cannot break us here, said the fortress general. We will crush whatever little force they send. But when the warning sirens began to howl, what appeared in the skies was not what they expected. No fleet, no bombers. Only dozens of burning streaks cutting through the clouds. At first the aliens thought they were missiles. Then they realized, too late, that these were drop pods. The pods screamed as they fell, tearing the sky with fire. The ground shook as they slammed into the earth, bursting open in clouds of dust and flame, and from the smoke. The war dogs emerged. They came in packs, armored hides glinting, eyes glowing like embers. The beasts roared as they charged, tearing through trenches before the soldiers could even fire. Gunfire erupted. Cannons boomed. But the war dogs were too fast. They leaped over barricades, ripping through lines of soldiers, knocking tanks aside with sheer force. One alien squad tried to regroup. They raised their rifles together, shouting, "Hold the line!" A war dog landed in their midst. With a single swipe of its claws, the squad was torn apart. The survivors fled in panic, screaming of demons falling from the heavens. Above the battlefield, human dropships followed, releasing soldiers who advanced with calm precision. But the aliens hardly noticed them. Their eyes were fixed on the nightmare beasts that had fallen from the sky in the fortress command tower. The general stared at the carnage below. His mandibles clattered in fear. "This is not possible," he whispered. They dropped monsters from orbit. An aide shouted, "General, the beasts are reaching the outer wall." The general roared, "Activate the heavy turrets. Burn them down." The fortress cannons turned, blasting the battlefield with searing energy. Explosions ripped through the ground, sending fire and sand into the air. For a moment, it seemed the beasts were gone. But then the smoke cleared. The war dogs kept running. Some burned, some wounded, but none stopped. Their howls echoed across the battlefield, shaking the hearts of every alien soldier who heard them. One pod had landed directly inside the fortress walls. Its hatch burst open, and an alpha war dog emerged, more terrifying than the rest. Its armored plating glowed faintly with energy, its claws sparking as it struck the ground. The alien soldiers guarding the wall fired wildly, but the alpha charged straight through them, ripping the gates apart as if they were paper. Behind it, human soldiers stormed in, rifles blazing. The fortress fell apart in minutes. From orbit, Captain Elias Vorn watched the battlefield through a visor. Titan, his own war dog, had dropped with the first wave. On the screen, Elias saw his beast tearing through alien armor. Fighting like a storm-given flesh, an officer beside him spoke in awe. "Sir, no army in the galaxy can face this." Elias did not smile. His voice was calm, steady. "They wanted to see our strength. Now they will never forget it." As the fortress of Drenner burned, transmissions carried across the stars. Footage of war dogs falling from the sky, of fortresses crumbling, of alien armies running in terror. The galaxy watched in silence. On world after world, alien soldiers asked the same question. How do you fight an enemy that drops nightmares from the heavens? The answer was simple. You didn't buy Nightfall, the fortress was nothing but ruins. Human soldiers stood among the rubble, their war dogs at their sides, glowing eyes watching the dark. And in the council chambers far away, the whispers grew louder. "If they can drop such beasts anywhere," one elder muttered, "then no world is safe." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by a single truth that all of them now feared. The humans were not fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to win. The galaxy could no longer ignore humanity. Every battle, every fortress, every world that stood against them had fallen. And always at the heart of the destruction were the war dogs. So the Alien Council did the only thing left. They called for unity. Armies from dozens of empires gathered on the world of Varric Prime. A planet turned into a fortress. Endless lines of soldiers stood ready. Massive war machines stomped across the plains, weapons glowing with enough power to melt mountains. Starships filled the skies, their cannons pointed downward, ready to unleash firestorms. The council declared, "Here we will crush the humans. Here the galaxy will break their beasts." Confidence filled the alien commanders. They had numbers beyond counting. They had weapons older than Earth itself. No handful of humans could defeat them here, or so they believed. When the human fleet arrived, it was smaller than anyone expected. Only a few ships descended, black against the stars. The aliens laughed at first, mocking the weakness. But then the hatches opened, and the war dogs fell. Thousands of pods screamed through the skies, burning trails across the atmosphere. They slammed into the plains, bursting apart as packs of war dogs leapt into the light. The beasts howled together, a sound so deep it shook the ground itself. The alien armies fired immediately. Cannons roared. Energy beams lit up the battlefield. Explosions tore the ground apart. For a moment, the plain was nothing but fire and smoke. The alien commanders cheered. "They are finished." But when the fire cleared, the cheering died. The war dogs still stood, burned, bloodied, but alive. Their eyes glowed brighter, their howls louder. They charged into the alien lines with fury unmatched, tearing through soldiers, ripping apart tanks. Leaping onto war machines, the battle turned into chaos. In the center of the carnage, Captain Elias Vorn led his soldiers. Titan ran at his side, claws dripping with steel and blood. Every command Elias gave was answered instantly, the beasts striking like lightning. But even as they fought, the humans knew the aliens had prepared something more, and then the ground trembled. The alien high command had unleashed their greatest weapons, colossal war mechs, each one towering like a mountain. Their cannons lit up the sky, each blast able to vaporize entire squads. The mechs marched forward, their steps shaking the battlefield. The alien soldiers roared with hope. Now, crush them. For a moment, it seemed the tide would turn, until the humans revealed their final secret. From the human ships, larger pods fell. Massive, reinforced, glowing with strange energy. They hit the ground with thunder, splitting open to release shapes bigger than anything the galaxy had seen before. The Alpha War Dogs. They were giants compared to the others. Their armored bodies glowing with deep blue light. Their claws sparked with energy. Their howls so loud, the skies seemed to shake apart. The aliens froze in terror. One Alpha leapt onto a towering mech, ripping into its armor with jaws that glowed like fire. The mech toppled, crashing to the ground as the Alpha howled victory. Another slammed through lines of soldiers, scattering them like leaves in a storm. The alien commanders screamed desperate orders, but it was useless. Their greatest weapons were nothing before the Alphas. The Supreme Moderator watched the destruction through a trembling screen. His voice broke as he whispered, "This is not an army. This is extinction." The battlefield of Varric Prime burned. Alien soldiers fought with all their might, but one by one their defenses crumbled. War dogs howled as they ripped apart fortresses. Human soldiers advanced behind them, calm, unstoppable, every shot precise in the sky. Alien starships tried to bombard the battlefield, but human interceptors struck with surgical precision, tearing them apart before their fire could land. By nightfall, the plain was a wasteland of smoke and ruin. The last alien general, armor shattered, dropped his weapon. His eyes locked on the glowing form of an alpha war dog standing over him. The beast's eyes burned with fury, but also with something more cold. Unshakable loyalty to its human partner. The general fell to his knees. His voice was hollow. "We called them weak," he whispered. "We called them prey. But they are the hunters," the war dog howled, the sound rolling across the battlefield like thunder. And with that, the galaxy's last stand collapsed into silence. The battlefield of Varric Prime was silent when the smoke cleared. The alien armies that had once stood proud were gone, broken machines scattered like bones. Soldiers lying among the ash, their weapons crushed and useless. The ground itself was scarred with the weight of the battle, burned black by fire and claw. At the center of the ruins, the humans stood, few in number, but unbroken. And beside them, the war dogs crouched, their glowing eyes scanning the dark horizon. They did not howl now. They only watched, silent, loyal, waiting. The war was over. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. Reports of Varric Prime carried horror into every empire. Entire fleets had fallen. Fortresses had been torn apart. The Alpha War Dogs had crushed the greatest mechs the galaxy had ever built, and everywhere the same whispers were spoken. No one can defeat them. Humanity fights with monsters. No, not monsters, brothers. World after world surrendered without a fight. Colonies that once mocked Earth now begged for peace. Empires that had called humans weak now sent envoys, their voices trembling, asking only to be spared. The galaxy no longer laughed at humanity. The galaxy feared them. But among the humans, there was no celebration on the edge of the battlefield. Captain Elias Vorn knelt beside his war dog, Titan. The beast's armor was torn, its hide bloodied, but its eyes still glowed with that fierce light. Elias placed a hand on its massive head. "You did well, old friend," he whispered. Titan pressed its head against his chest, breathing deep, steady breaths. In that moment, Elias did not see a weapon. He saw a partner who had carried him through fire, who had bled for him, who would never leave his side. Around them, other soldiers tended to their beasts the same way. Some cleaned wounds. Some whispered quiet words. Some simply sat in silence, their hands resting on the warm hides of the creatures that had saved them. It was not the sight of conquerors. It was the sight of family. Far away in the council chambers, silence ruled. The supreme moderator stood before the other alien leaders, his face pale, his voice hollow. "The galaxy has seen its end," he said. "Not because Earth destroyed us, but because we never understood them." "What do you mean?" asked one. The moderator looked around, his eyes grim. "We thought strength was numbers. We thought power was weapons. But humans showed us something else. They showed us loyalty, a bond that even death cannot break. That is why we lost," no one argued, because deep down, they all knew it was true. In the weeks that followed, legends began to grow. On trading routes, captains swore they heard howls in the dark, even when no humans were near. On distant colonies, children played games pretending to be humans and their war dogs, chasing each other across the sands even in the halls of power, where leaders whispered of strategies and defenses. The same thought haunted them all. If the war dogs walk with humans, then humanity is never alone. On Earth, Dr. Robert Chen watched as the surviving war dogs returned from battle. They limped, scarred, but their eyes still burned bright. He turned to his fellow scientists and said quietly, "The galaxy will remember this war, not because of us, but because of them, because the beasts we created showed what it truly means to be human." His words were carried across the program, even to the soldiers themselves, and they all knew he was right. One night, under the stars of a quiet world, Elias stood alone with Titan. The war was over, but he felt the weight of what was to come. The galaxy would fear Earth now, perhaps even hate it. But Titan pressed close, As if reminding him of the truth, Elias smiled faintly. They will never understand, will they? That we fight not for power, not for conquest, but for each other. Titan lifted its head and howled into the night sky. The sound carried across the hills, deep and powerful. It was not the howl of a monster. It was the call of a guardian, and somewhere, across 1,000 stars, the galaxy shivered from that day on. One truth was whispered in every corner of space. Where humans walk, the war dogs walk beside them. And no empire, no fleet, no council will ever dare call humanity weak again.